right, we are live. Back again for another live stream. I do these every day, 1 p.m. Eastern. Um, we talk about Freemasonry, and today I thought it might be kind of fun to chat and talk about not just Freemasonry, but Freemasonry and gamification, which is based on an article I wrote in Medium, or a story I wrote in Medium, which let me see if I can track that down. Give me 1 second. I wrote this on February 17th. Let me just see now if I can track it down. Hey, Cameron, happy Tuesday. Hey, Douglas, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Like I said, today I'm going to be talking about gamification. Now, normally what I do is every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m., I do these live streams. The first 45 minutes to an hour, give or take, is just waiting for people to jump on and we chat. We talk about whatever we want to chat about. And then I actually start talking about the main subject about 45 minutes in, and today is going to be gamification. I'm glad you're doing well. As always, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know if you have anything coming up in Freemasonry or anything you want to talk about, or just how you're doing in general. And it's very wonderful to have you join once again. Don't forget, Douglas, I'm not sure if you are interested or not, but we do have a Patreon page. I'm just going to see if I can track it down for you. Give me 1 second. Hold on just 1 sec. Let's see if I can actually find it now. Oh, here it is. There we go. Copy link. If you'd like to, you can hit the like or you can, for God's sakes, for heaven's sakes. Let me try this one more time. Patreon.com/square and compass. Patreon.com/square and compass. Douglas, if you're interested and you want to, you can sign up to be a part of our Patreon page. You can either sign up to be a free member, or you can even pay $3 a month, whatever it might be. And yeah, and check us out there. I'm glad you just got your apartment cleaned. I'm looking forward to seeing you, Harry, in Pops in just 2 weeks, I guess. Less than that, I suppose. What, the 22nd, right? So 11 days? So it's coming up soon, I suppose. But I hope that the apartment cleaning went well. I hope you're doing well. Don't forget, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're just joining us. Douglas, feel free to check out our Patreon, patreon.com/square and compass. Outside of gamification, I did think I could potentially talk a little bit about the market crash, how that might affect American Freemasons in particular. Because again, Freemasons cannot, as much as we sometimes like to think we cannot separate ourselves from the larger economic and political issues of the day. That doesn't mean we have to allow them to affect us totally, or affect our brotherly love between countries, between neighbors, between friends. But that does mean we have to keep it in mind. If the market crash continues, for example, that's going to definitely affect the amount of time the average Freemason has to focus on Freemasonry, when he also has to work potentially longer hours, or have a dual income household, or whatever it is, in order to find success. So But let's give it a bit of time. Let's wait to see who else joins us. I think, like I said, today, 45 minutes in or so, what we're going to start talking about is gamification, Freemasonry and gamification, what that is, how it works, and how it can potentially be of assistance to creating a more engaging lodge experience or more engagement in our Masonic lodges. But as always, right now is just wait, see who joins us and what they want to talk about. So I'm just going to hang out here, see who wants to join us. And welcome, as always, if you're just joining us, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. This is my Monday through Friday live stream. Every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m., I do a live stream. I talk about different aspects of Freemasonry, a lot of different aspects of Freemasonry. Today is going to be about Freemasonry and gamification. Let me make my poll question. Do you know what? That's my actually, what I just wrote here, gamification. So yes, no. So gamification is basically the definition is the application of typical elements of game playing to other areas of activity, typically as a marketing technique to encourage user engagement with the product or service. So if you consider, for example, video games, right, or board games, they are designed in such a way as to keep people playing or to keep the players engaged and playing for as long as possible. If you buy a game and it's boring, you're not going to play it for very long, and you're going to tell other people not to buy it because it's not engaging or interesting. So they design games with certain elements and qualities to make the engagement longer or to encourage people to remain engaged. But then different companies, businesses realize they could take these design elements from games and apply them to other areas of life in order to make those other areas of life just as engaging, specifically when it came to marketing, but also when it comes to things like creating an engaging or compelling meeting, or creating an engaging and a compelling experience like a vacation. There are ways to kind of format it or design it as you would a video game or board game with certain elements so people remain engaged. And I've said a million times, I think the biggest problem we in Freemasonry face isn't a lack of members. Rather, it's a lack of engagement amongst the members we already have. Well, chess is a good example of that, right? So chess is, you know, people are willing to spend hours and hours playing chess. People are willing to spend more time playing chess than they would be willing to sit through a Masonic meeting. So the question is why? What are they getting out of chess that keeps them engaged that they don't get out of Freemasonry? And can we potentially design certain elements of Freemasonry to include those same things, those same motivations, for example? But we're going to talk about that at the 45-minute mark or so. The first bit, once again, it's just us hanging out and waiting to see who joins and what they want to talk about. So let's see what people have to say. Just going to send some links out to people, see if we can get some more people to potentially join. As always, if you are joining, please don't forget, hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and what it is that you guys want to talk about. Again, the first hour or so is usually just to hang out, chat, see who joins, all that good stuff. I did find some really interesting things, which I think might be kind of fun to chat about in science and tech. Because again, I think Freemasons should be engaged with lifelong learning and care about lifelong learning. So welcome as always. Don't forget though, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and let me know what it is that you guys want to chat about as we wait for more people to join. Usually, like I said, half an hour to 45 minutes is when we get people really starting to show up. And then 45 minutes into an hour in, we can start talking about our particular subject. In this case, gamification. What caused you to join the Masons? Well, first of all, welcome, Devil Daddy. That's quite the handle. Please, by the way, hit the like and subscribe button if you can. I'd very much appreciate it. So there's always two answers I have to that. The answer as to why I joined the Freemasons was because I kind of grew up with my dad is a Freemason, and then both my grandfathers were Freemasons, and I always kind of assumed that I would join. I mean, it's not, it's not like my dad spent evenings reading like morals and dogma to me or anything like that. But I just always assumed I would join. I grew up kind of around it. I saw what it meant for the community. I saw what it meant for the people around it and going to the Christmas parties and stuff. So I saw the good that it did, and I just always kind of assumed I would join. So that's what caused me to join the Freemasons. What caused me to then become as engaged as I did. And I talked about this actually on a podcast I was a guest on. The example I used is I like the way it sounds. And what I mean by that, I'm just going to call you Devil instead of Devil Daddy. The reason I say that Devil is because the example I always use is, I don't know if you have a favorite song. For me, it's Simple Man by Skinnerd, or maybe Prodigal by Blacktop Mojo, which is a great song, by the way, and very underappreciated. But, the reason it's not like before I heard that song, I said to myself, okay, tomorrow, that's the song that's going to be my favorite song. It's just, there's something about my personality and the experiences I've had in life, as well as what was happening to me and around me at the time when I heard that song, as well as my general like disposition and every other thing that caused me to love that song in a way that you might hear the exact same song and not have the same reaction to it, which is human nature, right? And that's perfectly fine. But for me, for whatever reason, there's something about Freemasonry that speaks to me in a way that maybe it doesn't for others, it doesn't as much. So what caused me to join the Masons is the family connection. What caused me to engage with it as much as I have and to be as active as I have in it is kind of the fact that I just like the song of Freemasonry due to a million factors, most of which are probably not not obvious, right? My temperament, my experiences in life, and then some of the things that were happening to me in and around Freemasonry. So I hope, Devil, that that answers your questions. I also hope, Devil, that you will be so kind as to hit the like and subscribe button. Let me know how you came across the stream and let me know anything else you want to talk about. Interesting in terms of gamification, we've got 5 votes, 4 no's, 1 yes. Bong, James Bong. Hello. I hope that you are doing well. Thank you so much, Bong, for being here. As always, it is a pleasure to have you join. Once again, I've talked about this before, but about the 45-minute mark in or so, I'm going to be switching to today's topic, which is gamification, based on an article I wrote or story I wrote for Medium. In the meantime, though, just taking people's questions and comments. So I hope that you guys will take a few minutes to jump in the chat, say hello, and let me know what you want to talk about. And Devil, let me know if I answered your questions. Well, game design elements such as points, badges, leaderboards, and rewards in non-game context. There you go. So you must have been the one who got it right or who answered yes, and you are absolutely correct. I've talked about before, I think the major concern in Freemasonry right now needs to be not so much a lack of membership. That is not what concerns me. Rather, it's a lack of engagement amongst the members we already have. And I think it's important that we try our best to improve that engagement. And there's lots of different ways that we can try to improve it. But I think gamification elements may be a big part of that. And thank you for getting the answer right. Let's give it a bit more time. And then obviously we can always, in the meantime, discuss whatever else we want to talk about. I do think, and I've said before, the fact that we do have these issues with the market shutdown or not market crashing right now might be worth discussing because, again, that's going to affect Freemasonry. If your 401k is in trouble, you might not be as interested in attending lodge meetings. You might be working longer hours for less pay, et cetera, et cetera. So how has Freemasonry influenced your personal philosophy or approach to life? Good question. How has Freemasonry influenced my personal philosophy or approach to life? You have to think about this one for a second. I don't know if I'm trying to think the right way to put this. I think what Freemasonry's done is it's not so much influenced my philosophy or approach to life. I think my philosophy and approach to life it's almost like I'm, the famous quote, I'm not like this because I'm in Van Halen. I'm in Van Halen because I'm like this, right? It's my personal philosophy and approach to, I don't have a personal approach to philosophy of life or the philosophy and approach to life I have is not a result of being in Freemasons. My approach and philosophy to life is the reason why Freemasonry is something that I respond to, right? So it's not, I'm not like this because I'm in Van Halen. I'm in Van Halen because I'm like this. I'm not like this because I'm in Freemasonry. I'm in Freemasonry because I'm like this, right? And my personal philosophy and approach to life has always been this basic idea that to be alive is to be part of a team, team humanity, team human. You have responsibility to, so long as you're in life, to fight and try to make the world a better place, either in a macro sense of trying, big projects, or just trying to help the people around you live better lives. And Freemasonry gives me an outlet by which I can try to exercise that approach and try to make the world a better place through helping my brothers, and then more in general sense helping the community and helping the world. I think my personal philosophy, I think the best way to describe my personal philosophy comes from actually Angel, the TV show. But again, I talk about how Freemasonry had given me a way to pursue that. So I'm going to leave this link. Let me know if you can click on it. This is kind of, I think, the best example of my personal philosophy and approach to life. And then the reason why Freemasonry allows me to engage within that approach and engage with that personal philosophy. So I think that kind of describes it well. That's a great question, though. But yeah, I'll go back to I'm not like this because I'm in Van Halen. I'm in Van Halen because I'm like this. I'm not like this because I'm in Freemasonry. I'm in Freemasonry because I'm like this. I guess perhaps my better ways. Everybody, if you want to think about it in terms of Masonic context, everybody is responsible for trying to build the world into a better place with whatever tools that they have. And the tools that Freemasons use are brotherly love, relief, and truth. So I hope everybody is doing well. Please don't forget, if you get the chance, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're here today to chat about Freemasonry and gamification. And so when it comes to Freemasonry and gamification, how we can create a more engaging, engaging experience for our members, which will hopefully keep them more engaged in the long term. I hope everybody though is doing well. Like, subscribe, comment, etc., etc., etc. And also, we have some wrestling coming up. So if you happen to live in Windsor, Essex, heck, Detroit, London is not too far. March 14th, March 15th, St. Clair College. We have got what's going to be an awesome show. Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. I cannot wait to take part in it. I hope everybody that was doing well. So please take a moment. No wrong answers here. Thank you so much. Bong, if you want to answer that, please feel free to let me know in your case how Freemasonry influenced your personal philosophy or approach to life. Because again, like you said, no wrong answers, and I'd love to hear what yours is in particular. I had a great time, by the way, yesterday on the stream, but also seeing all the people who were interested in um, the discussion on cryptocurrency from the episode 175. The fact that I made it to 175 episodes, I thought was absolutely incredible. And I'm very honored to my entire audience for that. Trump just raised steel and aluminum tariffs on Canada 50%. Trump said that Canada can have the tariffs removed if they become the 51st state. Trump threatened massive tariffs, additional 25 tariffs, potential tariffs on all steel and aluminum coming into the United States from Canada, the highest tariff in the nation. So that is going to be interesting. That is going to be very interesting. Think this might be one of those elbows up Canada moments. It gave me a new understanding and compassion to life. Okay, that's a very good answer. When you say compassion to life, if you don't mind me kind of delving a little bit deeper into that, because I'm curious what you mean when you say compassion to life. Do you mean compassion to other people? Or do you mean compassion to just the idea of being alive, and maybe even to like compassion for yourself in the sense of not allowing yourself to become kind of bitter or resentful about some of the problems that exist in the world? That kind of compassion, or do you mean compassion to other people? Because I love that, and I think compassion is one of those Masonic qualities that sometimes gets overlooked in Masonic circles. I think you can kind of tie it to the idea of charity and benevolence, but I think compassion as a word and as a virtue is sometimes not often looked at in Freemasonry, even though it's very important. Sorry, I'm going to sneeze in a second. Wanting the best for myself and others around me. Okay, so that's a great answer. I hope you don't mind if I keep going with this, because I think there's a lot of other really interesting ideas to kind of explore with what you just said there. Does Freemasonry give you a better understanding of what is meant by the best? Because obviously, I think it is possible for people to disagree with this idea of what is the best. Not everybody kind of agrees, at least in a macro sense. Does Freemasonry help you better understand what is the best, or do you think that that's something you understand from before Freemasonry or outside of Freemasonry, but then you apply it to this idea of compassion in a Masonic sense, if that made any sense at all? Well, it's a personal inquest, so not to be generalized. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I like that. Trump will have to ask King Charles 111 first. I'll have to ask a lot of people first, I do suspect. Well, it's a personal inquest, so not to be generalized. Good way to look at it. I agree with that. And I think, yeah, wanting the best, what is the best? What does the best mean? That is often um, kind of misunderstood, right? It's unfortunate that people don't. I'm trying to think of how to say this in the right way. I think ultimately everybody has to decide for themselves what is the best. Um, because it's incredibly challenging to know, and people decide for themselves what is the best for me, and how do I, at the end of the day, I think what you need to do in life is, um, if you can look in the mirror and say that based on how you understand it and what you know, you did the best you could for your day-to-day lives. You did the best you could, and you did what you thought was right and for the best, then I think that's what you have to say. And that has to be enough, right? Because you can't always know what is the best, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try to figure it out. Um, if that made any sense at all. So, Bong, thank you so much. I really appreciate your answers, and your understanding. Thank you so much. Well, it's a personal inquiry, so not to be generalized. Um, Hello, Cameron, and hello, dear chat. Hello, Courtney. Hope you're doing well. Please hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing, and let me know what it is you guys want to talk about. Today's topic will be gamification based on my most recent um, well, not most recent, actually, yeah, my most recent Medium story, which I wrote in February, which talked about Freemasonry and gamification, and um, the ways in which we as Freemasons can um, potentially create a more engaging Masonic experience that will keep more people involved in Freemasonry, more of our members, I should say, involved in Freemasonry. So I hope that you are doing well. Um, please hit that like and subscribe button. We have got, so far, interestingly enough, we've got 6 votes. Do you know what gamification is? Looks like 5 no's and 1 yeses. So, or no, 4 no's and 2 yeses. I wonder if the people who said yes read my article. Let's give it another 10, 15 minutes. Let's see who else joins us and jumps in the chat, and we'll go from there. And Courtney, I hope that you are doing well. Also, to everybody who's just joining us, don't forget, if you can also support us on Patreon, patreon.com/square and compass. Let me know if you're doing anything for St. Patrick's Day. I'd love to know if you guys, Masonically speaking, maybe your Masonic Lodge is doing a dinner or something special for St. Patrick's Day. That'd be a lot of fun to learn about as well. So, yes, eating breakfast. I just recently found out I was part Irish. Well, there you go. So you're going to have an excellent St. Patrick's Day, no doubt about it. I hope that you enjoy it. Captain the Dog is here on this channel. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here, Captain the Dog. I always appreciate you joining. Let me know how you're doing. Let me know if you know about gamification. It was great having you on our other channel. By the way, Captain, on Saturday, I'm going to be doing another movie watch along. Saturday midnight, this one, because it's the weekend before St. Patrick's Day, it's going to be watching Leprechaun. Um, one of my Leprechaun Part 3, Leprechaun in Las Vegas, one of my favorite horror movies because it's just so cheesy and fun, and because it's St. Patrick's Day. So there have been, let's see if I can get the numbers correct. I agree, Bong James. I agree. Let me, if I recall correctly, let's see how good I am at this. We've got Leprechaun, Leprechaun 2, Leprechaun 3, Las Vegas, Leprechaun in Space, very underrated movie. Leprechaun in the Hood, Leprechaun Back to the Hood, the WWE Leprechaun Origins, and then Leprechaun Returns. So that'd be 8 Leprechaun movies altogether. I am one of those people. I love all scary movies, the elevated ones, the cheesy ones. So I personally really like the Leprechaun movies. I think they are very underappreciated and underrated. In fact, one of my favorite memories is watching Leprechaun 4 with some friends. I remember, I don't know if I ever told this story, before we get into the gamification thing, and kind of a fun little note. So I was staying in Toronto in a hostel. This was back when I was part of a group called Katimavik, which is a Canadian program. This was grade 11, 16, 17 years old. Feels like a lifetime ago. I guess it was a lifetime ago. But we were staying in this hostel, and you had people who spoke all different languages staying there because it was like a traveler's hostel. So you had people I remember you had people from Asia. I think they were Chinese or Japanese, didn't speak English. We had people from England. We had people from everywhere, right? All over the world. And we found this video store, and any kids watching this, video stores where you rented video cassettes. And if you don't know what that is, then that makes me feel sad. But we rented Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood, which was a Jason movie, and we rented Leprechaun Part 2. And we went down to the common room, we put those movies in, and it didn't matter what language you spoke, where you were from, what you were doing there. Everybody was watching those movies and cheering and laughing and whooping it up at the different parts of the movies. Because horror movies, in my opinion, are universal. Everybody can relate and love them, and you don't even need to speak the language to know exactly what's happening and to get along with everybody else who is watching it. So, you had the Japanese guys, the English guys, I think there was like Polish people or something, Germans, I forget, but some other language. All of them were enjoying and loving the movies. So that is one of my fonder memories, and one of the reasons why I love scary movies, because there is something universal about them in the way that you don't get with, say, like romantic comedies or things, which I think tend to be more cultural specific. Welcome, by the way. If you're just joining us, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. We're here chatting about Freemasonry. I do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Today, we're chatting about gamification, what it is and how it works. And how it may assist Freemasons in creating more engaged experience for its members. But we're going to give it a bit more time to see who else joins. Captain the Dog, let me know how you're doing. And thank you again for joining us. And that's a classic Leprechaun. I like the original, but I love all of them. I agree. I like the original too. Jennifer Aniston's first starring role, I do believe. But actually, I'm going to go with Leprechaun Part 3 when he's in Las Vegas, because I find that such a silly and fun movie. And it's probably my favorite of the Leprechaun batch. Went direct to video. So if the people who are in Leprechaun 3 are watching this stream, I want to be on the channel. I hope you will join me for that live stream, because it was so much fun. But please don't forget, like button, subscribe button, check out our Patreon, all of that good jazz. Let me just head over to Blue Sky and invite some people there, and then maybe we'll get started. Oops. I'd love to know, in the meantime, though, if your lodges are doing anything as it relates to St. Patrick's Day. I think a lot of lodges do tend to do things for St. Patrick's Day, which can be a lot of fun and enjoyable. And again, it's just an excuse to hopefully get your lodge out and active with its membership in the community, all of that good stuff. All right, let's give it another, let's say 4 minutes, see who else joins, and then we're going to start on today's topic, which once again is going to be Freemasonry and gamification. I'm going to be reading from the Medium story that I wrote in February, which I hope you guys will check out. I left a link to it above in this description or above in the chat. Spirit, what's gamification? All right, welcome, Spirit. Thank you so much for being here. I guess we can start. Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is start talking about it now, and the subject. So it is actually, I wrote about this on Medium and let me see if I can just pull it up. In February of this year, it's actually the last article or story I wrote on Medium. So let me just pull it up. Published in Sustainable Cities. It's more than a game. One more time, what I'm going to do is leave the link in the chat and then share the screen so you guys can read along with me. But you can find the link there if you guys want to go check it out yourselves. Just please follow me on Medium. All right, it's more than a game. We're going to share this screen. Let me know once you guys can see it, or if you guys can see the screen. And let's kind of get started. And you see my dad actually above in the chat mentioned chess. And so chess is being maybe the oldest and most well-known game in the world. I use that as the picture. So let's get started. Jump in the chat at any point if you have any questions and let me know if you can see the screen and all that good stuff. And hear me well, etc., etc. Most systems are function focused and designed to get the job done quickly. This is like a factory that assumes that the workers within will do their jobs. However, human-focused design remembers that people in the systems have feelings, insecurities, and reasons why they want to or do not want to do things, and therefore optimize their feelings, motivations, and engagement. Games have an amazing ability to keep people engaged for a long time, build relationships and trust between people, and develop their creative potential. So again, how many times in Freemasonry do we assume, we design things on a function basis just to make sure we get the meeting done, we get the work done, we get what needs to be done. Do we often also try to remember that the Masons that are in our lodges have feelings, insecurities, and reasons why they want to or do not want to do things, including Masonic things, and therefore optimizes feelings, motivations, and engagement? Let me just head down. A common challenge amongst Masonic lodges and bodies is the ability to maintain engagement amongst its membership. This challenge is reflected amongst all membership levels, from its newest entered apprentices to past masters. Some will point out Masonic retention rates, how many members retain their membership, and for how long, as being very high. However, in this author's opinion, retention is not and should not be the primary Masonic concern. The primary concern should be member engagement, engagement defined as how often a member communicates with his Masonic lodge or otherwise attends Masonic events, including but not limited to regular meetings or degrees. This author defines an engaged member as a member who attends a minimum of 2 Masonic meetings per year. In this author's personal and anecdotal experiences, pursuant to the above definition, over 50% of North American members are not engaged, which means over 50% of North American Masonic members are not attending at least 2 Masonic meetings per year. How can Freemasonry increase member engagement? One possible answer is gamification. Gamification is the application of typical elements of game playing, point scoring, competition, rules of play to other areas of activity, typically as an online marketing technique to encourage user engagement with a product or service. So let's take the above and then apply it Masonically speaking. So if we take the way I took these kind of terms and change them around, other areas of activity equals Freemasonry, user equals members, product or service equals Masonic meetings or activities. You see here, right? Gamification is the application of typical elements of game playing. So the application of typical elements of game playing to Freemasonry to encourage Masonic or members' engagement with Masonic meetings or activities or Freemasonry in general. Is it possible to gamify member engagement? Is it possible to apply the typical elements of gameplay to Freemasonry, thereby encouraging engagement with Masonic meetings or activities? My answer is yes. That yes is based on Yukai Chow's Octalysis framework. Every Freemason concerned with or considering how to increase member engagement needs to check out this framework, which describes the 8 core motivations or drives by which or through which people engage in activities, including Masonic activities. By exploring these 8 drives and the categories in which each drive resides, Freemasons will get a better understanding of the motivations which both encourage and discourage member engagement, and potentially how to renew engagement amongst discouraged membership. What is the desired behavior? Increase membership engagement. Which core drives will motivate that desired behavior? See below. So I think that's the question, right? It's what is the desired behavior? Increase membership engagement. Which core drives will motivate the desired behavior? That's where we need to look at each core drive individually. Author's note, it is important to note that these same questions and drives could, oops, I spelled that wrong. Drives couple apply to Masonic attempts to increase applications and memberships also. And we in this story will explore this application also. However, it is this author's opinion that the main challenge facing Freemasonry is not reduced membership, but rather reduced engagement amongst the current membership. So first, let me know what you guys are thinking about that, if that makes sense to you. If you agree, if you're a Freemason, if you agree with the idea that the main challenge is not reduced membership, but reduced member engagement. Core drive 1. So this is those motivations or drivers, meaning and calling. This is a drive based on a user believing that he or she is part of something bigger than themselves. They can tie into ideas such as faith, hope, and charity. It is the author's opinion that Freemasonry can and does provide an epic meaning. In fact, the author wrote about what he views as the true Masonic calling in a previous story. The Masonic calling is the call to fight for a better world. The epic meaning of Freemasonry is the epic struggle to build the world into a better place through the practice of brotherly love, relief, and truth. If a user feels that engagement in activity is contributing to something larger than himself or herself, that user is more likely to remain engaged. How many members feel that engagement in Freemasonry contributes to something larger than themselves? How many members feel that Freemasonry has a meaning, epic or otherwise, or calling? If they do feel that Freemasonry has a meaning or calling, could they express that meaning or calling to others or even themselves? If they cannot express the meaning of or calling behind Freemasonry, is that the fault of their Masonic lodge and sponsors in failing to either explain through words or express through actions the meaning or calling behind Freemasonry? How many members join Freemasonry out of a belief they will find an epic meaning and calling therein, and then become disappointed, disillusioned, and subsequently disengaged in the craft? Disappointed, disillusioned, disengaged. It is truly the responsibility of a Masonic lodge to remind its membership of both the administrative and membership duties required to maintain a Masonic lodge, and why, note the capitals, maintaining a Masonic lodge is something bigger than oneself that is deserving of being maintained. This reminding could include in-lodge discussions of Masonic charitable efforts, the health benefits of being a Freemason, reaching out to isolated members, and returning them to a Masonic lodge. The information from these discussions should also be included with a lodge summons or trestle board to ensure every member is reminded that being a member or being a Freemason can be an epic calling if that member is engaged. It does make sense. I'm not sure. Engagement is Kingpin. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I hope that you will hit the like and subscribe button if you can, if you haven't done so yet. Thank you for being here. Kingpin, engagement is difficult. For Masons like myself, I have been in a new city every 6 months or so because of my work, but I still do regular email my brothers at Blue Lodge. First of all, that's great to hear. And welcome back. I recognize you now, Kingpin. Welcome back. That's great to hear that you're maintaining that engagement through communications. You can also potentially, visit the Masonic lodges in the new city that you're in. You can also potentially send emails, or not send emails, but send maybe actually like a physical card, Christmas card, holiday card, whatever it might be during holidays, or maybe send it 4th of July, whatever it might be, as a way to show you're still thinking of them. But I'm very happy to hear, Kingpin, or read that you are engaging through email communications. That stuff is important, right? I think I've talked about this a bunch. I know I've said this a bunch, right? If you can't run, walk. If you can't rock, crawl. If you can't crawl, get somebody to carry you. If you're too heavy for one person to carry you, get 2 people to carry you. And what you're saying there, Kingpin, is an example of what I was talking about, right? You're saying you can't make it to every lodge, but you still send emails. And when you can, you visit lodges in the new town that you're in. So, or in every city. So that's an example of trying to maintain your engagement as much as you possibly can, which is a good thing. Although, by the way, I'd also mention, Kingpin, and you may do this already, but if your Blue Lodge has pins or coins or some type of special souvenir it gives to visitors, maybe try to carry a bunch with you in your luggage. So when you are visiting a lodge in, every new city, you're able to give those, give maybe a pin to the worshipful master or secretary, or, tokens like that can be the start of building a great relationship. The other thing you can do, for whatever it's worth, is whenever you're visiting a new city, speak to the secretary, see if you can get on that new lodge's email list, so you can receive updates on their summons, and then also see if maybe your secretary can include their secretary on your summons list. It's a great way to develop relationships amongst lodges. It's almost like having Masonic pen pals, if that makes any sense. It can be really fun. And one of my things I was really proud of when I was going through Freemasonry the first time in the chair in 2015 is whenever I would visit a lodge, I would do my best to get from them their contact information. And, to this day, I was master first time in 2015. We still share our summons with brethren from England and the States and all around the world. And that is something I'm very proud of. So that's something else to consider in your travels. That's a good idea. I have a couple good ideas. Many would disagree with that, by the way, but I think I have a couple good ideas. All right, so core drive 2, development and accomplishment. Freemasonry has in its structure an already established system of development and accomplishment, which begins with 3 degrees, moves on to officer progressions, then can move on to joining appendant bodies or in Grand Lodge position. Gamification refers to the application of game design elements and principles in non-game context to engage and motivate people. Absolutely. So, Captain, the question I'm asking in this situation is, how do we engage and motivate Freemasons? Or can we engage and motivate Freemasons, right? I think that, to me, is kind of the critical question that we need to ask ourselves. And the first way to engage and motivate people is through providing them with an epic meaning or calling. The second way is through development and accomplishment. In video game speak, the development and accomplishment structure is like a progress bar that allows a member to feel like he's getting somewhere. It symbolizes a sense of accomplishment. It must symbolize a sense of accomplishment. A real danger in Freemasonry caused by reduction in engaged members is allowing members to advance through degrees or offices without being qualified. If members advance and achieve new accomplishments without qualifications, the accomplishments will feel cheap and will not create any drive to advance or otherwise engage in the Masonic experience. Core drive 3, empowerment or creativity of feedback. This drive relates to the ability of a member to make meaningful choices and otherwise feel empowered to make creative choices within the activity. Do members feel empowered to make creative decisions and try new things? Do members feel in control of their Masonic experience? Or do members, especially new members, feel that they are not empowered to make new decisions or approach Freemasonry in a creative way? If members do not feel empowered, how likely are they to engage? If the authors experience this feeling of powerlessness is a major factor that results in disengagement, especially among first-time worshipful master. Oh, sorry. Jumped a little bit ahead. So core drive 2, advancement. And this is something, speaking of individual needs of each person outside the lodge, bypassing the issue of attendance or performance. Captain the dog, I think I know what you're saying, and I think I might agree with you. Actually, I had this discussion on one of my podcast episodes. So I think what you're trying to say, Captain the dog, and let me know if I'm incorrect. I'm going to stop sharing the screen for just 1 second. Is when you see the individual needs of each person outside the lodge. So you're like, if let's use, I mean, I taught this before, right? We have a stock market crash right now happening in the States. A lot of people are losing value and money. If the if John Smith, who is a Freemason, is needing to work more hours because his 401k took a massive hit, or his wife lost her job and is now a single income household and needs to work more hours to make up the lost income, or he has some type of other issue, maybe his kid is sick, and in the hospital, maybe he's sick in the hospital, right? If you're not speaking to those individual needs, then it doesn't necessarily matter how engaging the lodge experience is. The likelihood of him attending or performing or being engaged is going to drop, because you can create the most engaging experience in the world, but if he needs to work or he can't pay his rent, he's going to choose work. I mean, is that what you're trying to say, Captain? Let me know if I'm correct in reading that, and I'll give you my answer. But I want to make sure I'm reading that correctly, which I do agree with you is an issue. We talked about this actually in a couple of podcasts. I think that making Freemasonry a digital world is a wonderful thing. I agree. I think, well, I mean, I think Freemasonry needs to be everything. Um, it needs to be both. It needs to be digital. Um, it needs to be digital. It needs to be in person. And when we say digital, I mean, I referring to all the different digital types of, like, I believe we should be digital in terms of being on YouTube, as well as Podbean, as well as Medium, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we're having money issues. I may not have money, but I might have time outside lodge time. And at that time, I could find a connection that fits to help this issue a little. Okay, I see what you're saying. What you're saying is, I get what you're trying to say, Captain. What you're saying is right. If the way to make Freemasonry engaging is to speak to issues outside the lodge. So if somebody is having financial troubles, but they know that the lodge can potentially assist through benevolence or charity or food or whatever it is, then you're more likely to be engaged, because it's speaking to what you need. Is that kind of what you're trying to say? Like during COVID, my lodge did virtual meetings. I 100% agree, Kingpin. I think one of the biggest mistakes that we in Freemasonry have made is, we retreated from the digital space as soon as we were able to meet in person again. And it's unfortunate because digital meetings had some incredible and amazing benefits. I'm not saying we should go back to digital exclusively. Obviously, we shouldn't, but you could bring in guest speakers from around the world at no cost, because you didn't have to worry about, flying them in or whatever it is. You could bring in Masons from around the world, including members of your lodge who had traveled far, far away and, couldn't meet in person anymore. That was really special. Also, you could bring in non-Masons to meet and chat and hang out with them. I've said this before. One of in my opinion, maybe the smartest decision. This is the smartest decision I think that my Grand Lodge ever made is, when we had our virtual meetings during COVID, they said no ritual work was allowed to be done, which meant, they were not tiled, which meant we could invite non-Masons in to take part. We didn't do ritual or exchange secrets, but we talked to them about what Freemasonry was, how it works, why we care about it, all that type of stuff. So it was really special and really helpful. And so I think virtual meetings 100% has a very valuable place. And I wish we went back to them in our lodges, as opposed to just in terms of me doing it as part of like, as part of my Square and Compass promotions. Not that I don't love Square and Compass promotions and think it's incredibly valuable. My friend the other day stopped by, said he was tight on money. The second time he said to me when I could help him with money, but could with a few other things. Surplus for me, good. Well, so that's great. And that's an example, again, of things that Freemasonry can do to help other people. The other thing to keep in mind with what you're saying there is that does present itself a core drive motivator, both for you and for your friend. For you, the core drive motivator from a gamification idea would be epic meaning or calling. The opportunity to help somebody would be an epic meaning or calling. In terms of your friend, for him, his core drive could be scarcity, almost impatience, but I'd say loss and avoidance. The idea of he's motivated to hang out with you, be your friend, because part of it is because he's your friend and you're a good person and all that. But part of it is he's motivated to hang out with you because he knows that you will help him if he needs help. And that can be a very strong motivator, to know that you have somebody you can rely on for help and not wanting to lose that friendship because he knows how valuable it is, both in an emotional sense, in a friendship sense, as well as in a potentially to help you in the other senses as well, in terms of having the surplus, tight on money, all that stuff. From stone to digital, that's a good title, Courtney. I feel like that would make a great title for a story. Stone block to data block. I feel like that's actually a great story. I should have if I'm going to warn everybody now, I may take that, because when I do another story, for example, about writing about Freemasonry and maybe the ways in which we should embrace virtual meetings, that might be a good title. Stone to digital, stone block to data block, stone blocks to data blocks, squaring the data block, maybe. By the way, we have got 10 votes. Thank you, everybody who's voted so far. Do you know what gamification is? 3 yeses, 7 nos. So again, going back to this idea of maintaining membership engagement by giving members a core drive or something to drive or motivate them. We've talked about the idea of an epic meaning, wanting to take part in something because they feel like there's an epic meaning to it. And for example, to the example Captain gave, that could mean, for example, the epic meaning of helping a friend who needs assistance. We talked about the drive of accomplishment, feeling a sense of accomplishment, especially when you start. So that drive would be, I became a Mason. Now I want to get my 2nd degree. Now I want to accomplish my 3rd degree. Now I want to accomplish being a worshipful master. Now I want to become an IPM. Now I want to become a DDGM, right? And so I think that there's that sense of accomplishment. And again, for some Freemasons, what I found is if they are highly motivated by this sense of accomplishment, they tend to lose their motivation really quickly after they become a worshipful master for the first time, because they start to feel like, okay, I've accomplished my 1st degree, my 2nd degree, my 3rd degree. I became an officer. I became a worshipful master. So now I'm kind of done trying to accomplish things. Then there is the drive of, let me go back to empowerment and creativity of feedback. They want to feel empowered. They want to feel like they are part of something that gives them a sense of power or control. the ability to make meaningful choices. If you're playing a game of chess, but somebody else is telling you which moves to make and where to move the pieces, you may not enjoy the game very much because you don't have any power or control over the decisions that you're making. Somebody else is telling you where to move the pieces or what to do. Right. And in Freemasonry, that can actually be a huge problem. I know what it's like to join a lodge or a group and have somebody else telling you what to do or how to do it, especially you get those past masters and the infamous "that's not how my lodge used to do it" approach to things, which can be incredibly damaging to a Masonic career. There's the core drive of ownership and possession, which is kind of similar to the first one. It's the idea of feeling like you are the owner of your Masonic experience and that you've invested a lot of time into it. And this creates its own kind of cycle, right? Because if you are so busy that you don't have any time to invest into your Masonic experience, then you're less likely to invest and becomes this ongoing cycle, right? Oops. I haven't invested much in Freemasonry, so I don't feel the need to invest anything in future, which means I invest less in future, which means I feel like investing less, which means I do invest less. It kind of becomes this cyclical pattern that becomes incredibly challenging to get out of once you start. That's why, going back to Kingpin, it's so important to try and keep engaged in Freemasonry, even if you're busy, by sending emails to your Blue Lodge, sending them cards, visiting as much as you can, because it's very easy once you get into the pattern of not showing up. You keep not showing up. Patterns kind of grow themselves. Core drive 4, influence and relatedness. Relevance. How relevant is what you're doing to the membership? Do they care? I always ask my question, and actually maybe I'm going to make this the next poll question just to see what people say. Because this to me is how you examine relevance, why it's important, why it matters, and what we can do to kind of explore this question. All right, hold on just one sec. If your Masonic lodge disappeared, apparently I can't spell. Disappeared tomorrow, would anyone outside of the lodge's active members notice aside from active members notice? Next poll question. Core drive 6, scarcity and impatience. Is, if I feel like something is going to go away, am I more likely to I'm more likely to become engaged with it as quickly as I can in order to make. So, for example, limited time offers is a good example of that, right? Limited time offer for the next 10 days, you can get 50% off of this, or, this sale only lasts for so long, or this event only lasts for so long, or this is a one-time only event. You're more likely to motivate people to be engaged with it because there's a scarcity, there's a time limit. If they feel like they can always just come back later, then you're less likely to see them engaged. Because younger individuals are trying to come forth into the craft, education-wise, even EAs, that are members that will hopefully keep them around and spark light. So if they're coming in for education, you could argue that that's a motivation of epic meaning. They want to be educated about something because they think it's important. They think there's some type of meaning behind that education or purpose behind that education, which is important to keep in mind. The digital age brings both challenges and opportunities. While some may turn to online platforms for social connections, many are also seeking genuine face-to-face interactions and meaningful experiences. The Masonic journey is not about the size of the lodge or the secrecy of the rituals. It's about the quality of the bonds formed and the impact made in our community. In this way, Masonry remains relevant and keeps the spark lit. I agree, Courtney, with the idea that the Masonic journey is not about the size of the lodge or the secrecy of its rituals. It's about the quality of the bonds formed and the impact made in our communities. I agree with what you're saying in that case. I would say, though, you need to be careful because at a certain point, size does become an issue, right? Size does matter. It's far too easy to say, like, well, it's about the journey in Freemasonry and the quality of the bonds made. But if your lodge has 7 people and you're struggling to get quorum, sooner or later that lodge is not going to exist anymore. You kind of do need to think about some of these practical elements, especially when it comes to the numbers of members that you have. I think it's far, far too easy sometimes to forget about, you need members, you need money, you need things like that. I'm not a Mason just yet, but from a non-Mason standpoint only. No, I think that what you're saying absolutely makes sense. So you're not wrong by any means. Size matters only to be able to afford the lodge, operating costs, etc. Well, it matters for that. It also matters for the ability to, for example, hold a degree, like, and quorum, right? So it's not just about affording, although affording is a huge part of it, Kingpin, don't get me wrong. But it's also about um, um, the more practical side of things. So, for example, in Ontario, you need at least 7 members to have quorum. And when you have 7 members and you have quorum, it means you can pass bills. But let's say you have a situation where you have, a lodge of 500 people, which would be a larger lodge for sure. And I've seen stuff like this happen. You have your 500 members, they're all paying their dues. So you're able to, in theory, afford the lodge operating costs. But at your meetings, you are getting 5 or 6 people out and that's it. Then in theory, you're never going to be able to pass a bill or pass an account, and you're never going to be able to pay anything, at least not in accordance with your lodge bylaws. You'd have to then turn around and, and that becomes its own problem. So the practicality of that, or the other thing to keep in mind is there's operating costs in terms of money, but there's also operating ability in terms of, for example, putting on a degree. Like I would say here in Canada, to hold a first, second, or third degree, to do it well, you probably need at least 10 members showing up regularly or showing up to the degree. And again, if you don't have those 10 members, it's a challenge to do a degree. You also need backups, things like that. So it's not just size matters. The key word I would dispute there, Kingpin, is only. I would say size matters in terms of your ability to afford lodge operational costs. You also need size to operate legally within your frameworks, and you also need size to complete degrees and other functions and hold events, things like that. My Blue Lodge will call on other lodges. No, and I do that all the time as a former and current worshipful master. I am constantly calling on other brothers to assist with degrees, and that is a good thing. I think it creates the bonds of friendship and strengthens those bonds. But, and this is a big but, it can sometimes paper over the challenges a lodge is facing, right? So um, if your lodge is consistently needing to go outside to other lodges to, hold degrees, that's fine for a while, but those other brothers may sooner or later find themselves tired in their own rights and not want to support it, or you may be taking them away from their ability to support their own lodge. Because let's say they're one of these situations where they are maybe they made some type of deal with their wife, which happens more than you would think, and the deal is, I will attend two Masonic meetings. I will attend two Masonic events per month. And now one of those Masonic events is visiting another lodge to assist with a degree. Does that then limit his ability to attend his own lodge? And that creates other sets of problems. So I do agree, Kingpin, and as some believe me, I've been worshipful master many times and relied on brothers from other lodges many times, but that can in and of itself create its own sense of, that can sometimes paper over problems that we need to keep in mind. Does your lodge take group photos after meetings, initiations, passings, raisings? It used to. It doesn't as much anymore. It depends on what's happening and who the worshipful master is. I know in one of my lodges, the worshipful master is really emphasizing this idea of group photos. So, and sometimes a lot of brothers will themselves decide to take the photos. So, some reason I love the photos part. Oh, you're different than me, Spirit. I hate the photos part. It drives me crazy to be um I'll be all excited because I'll be like, okay, I've made it, I'm done the meeting. I can go upstairs, grab some food because usually I won't eat before lodge, so I'll be hungry. And then as soon as you just will make it out the door, somebody yells, "We're taking a photo." And then you're kind of stuck. You have to go all the way back in, take the photo. Drives me crazy. Um, Here in our lodges too, after lodge, we sing happy birthday, or sorry, happy birthday, geez. We sing, "Oh Canada," we sing the national anthem. If we have American brethren visiting, we'll sing the American anthem as well as the Canadian anthem. Um, and so it's one of those things where it's like you're done the meeting, you're all excited, and then you sing the anthem, and then sometimes there's a prayer, and then after all of that, you still have the group photo, and inevitably somebody's running late or they have to go to the washroom, so you got to wait for them to show up. It's a whole thing. Group photos are great. I should have lodge secretary put them on our monthly trestle board email. Yeah, I mean, despite my joking about it, group photos can oftentimes provide a really excellent and exciting a really excellent tool to communicate a sense of excitement with Freemasons, or a sense that your lodge is growing, especially if you have a big turnout and a large turnout. It can really, really help your Masonic lodge demonstrate its successes. So, and sharing them with the secretary and putting them on the trestle board, I think, is also a great thing. So, we talked about gamification. Again, the core drives and again, maybe this even goes back to this idea of guarding the West Gate, right? This idea of you have somebody joining, what is motivating them to join? And if you know that, you can maybe get a better sense of how much or how far they will themselves remain engaged. So if they're motivated to join Freemasonry because of some type of epic meaning, because they think that Freemasonry is something that has some type of meaning or calling to it that can help them make the world a better place, then you need to make sure you're constantly fostering that, especially as a sponsor, reminding them why it's so important, why being part of Freemasonry provides an epic meaning, and why it matters so much. If they're joining because they are attracted to titles, they like the idea of getting a title, then maybe you need to keep that in mind and make sure, even after they've been the worshipful master, you remind them that there are still other titles that they can achieve, whether those titles be, district deputy grand master, district secretary, Mason of the Year. Those things can be super motivating to people but if they feel like, okay, I've accomplished everything I can accomplish, there's nothing more, no more titles for me to have, they may become less engaged over time, right? If they are motivated by this idea of, for example, unpredictability and curiosity, if what keeps them interested in Freemasonry is curiosity, well, if every meeting is exactly the same, if nothing is ever different, then how motivated are they going to remain over time? Right? But if every meeting there's something different, something unique, something interesting, is that going to create a core drive? It's kind of like a video game. If every level is exactly the same, then if every level is exactly the same, they're not going to be interested in playing the game over and over again. In the same way with Freemasonry, if every meeting is exactly the same, they're not going to stay engaged. But if you can create a more engaged experience or a more engaging experience by creating something new and different, that will engage their curiosity and their interest. I think that's worth keeping in mind. Right. The other idea, even when it comes to this, is being afraid of another motivating factor: loss and avoidance, the fear of missing out. So when it comes to somebody joining Freemasonry, they could be joining because they're afraid of missing out on something Freemasonry has to offer. However, or if they're already a member, they may be motivated to attend a meeting because there's an interesting piece of education or some type of chance to visit Masonic brethren, something to that extent, which can help them. They want to show up because they're afraid of missing out. One Masonic lodge in Arizona publishes its refreshment menu in its summons as a way to encourage engagement, lest the members miss out or lose a delicious meal. So that's another way to motivate somebody. It's like, I want to show up because I don't want to miss out on something special, right? This core drive is also how Masonic jurisdictions will motivate or drive engagement with members, especially as it relates to administrative work or procedures. Do this or you will lose your charter. Do this or you will get in trouble, and you want to avoid getting in trouble, right? The threat of a loss of Masonic charter, which means the loss of Masonic lodges, extra fees, a penalty, or the loss of Masonic membership, all drive engagement related to administrative work through the fear of loss or punishment. That has to be really careful, though. If you are constantly threatening people, do this or else, you are going to end up in a situation where you get them burned out, right? Like I tend to respond very poorly to being threatened. I think most people do in some ways. So if I'm working really hard and Grand Lodge comes to me and says, you have to do this extra thing or else you will lose your Masonic charter, if I'm already working my ass off, am I going to respond well to that? Or am I going to start to feel like you're just keeping me almost hostage to the thing I love? The things that we love keep us hostage, unfortunately, as much as we like to imagine otherwise. So we talked about those different drives. Then there's the categories in which those drives exist. left brain or extrinsic motivation, or right brain or intrinsic. So the extrinsic drives are drives which motivate based on reaching a reward, goal, or milestone without necessarily enjoying the activity itself. You're doing the thing not because you genuinely enjoy it, but because you want to get something from it. For example, I don't like my job, but I go to it because I get a paycheck. Or I don't necessarily like um, I don't necessarily like gambling, but maybe I have a problem and I'm gambling not because I enjoy it, but because I think I'm going to make a lot of money from it, or I'm convinced I'm going to win. Right? The problem with that and the danger of that is it's good for attracting people into a system, but it's very poor at maintaining engagement. So, for example, in Freemasonry, if you say maybe somebody joins Freemasonry out of an extrinsic desire, they don't necessarily like Freemasonry, but they want the title of Freemasonry because titles are important to them. They just care about having the title. Or they want to become worshipful master, not because they like Freemasonry, but because they care about the title of being a Freemason. That is one of those things where you're going to get them in, but how likely are they to stay, especially after they've achieved whatever title it is they want to achieve? The other side of it is the intrinsic motivation. These are drives that motivate based on the internal enjoyment of the activity without needing any reward or milestone. So you're doing it not because you get something necessarily, but purely because you enjoy it. It's easy to design Freemason. It's easy to design a Masonic meeting. Anything else, it's easy to design those for extrinsic motivations, right? So, I mean, if you want to increase the membership in Freemasonry, just offer every member who joins $500. You're going to see a pretty rapid increase in Masonic, membership and joining. But after they get their $500, how likely are they to remain in Freemasonry? That's the challenge, right? So it's not just about giving people rewards. You also have to care about people enough to, you also care about the experience enough to make sure they're not just joining for a reward, but they're staying because they genuinely enjoy it. I mean, and because, a job, that's the thing about Freemasonry. That's one of the challenges it faces. When it comes to, Freemasonry, like a job, in theory, you can hate your job, but you're going to keep going because you have the extrinsic thing of you need the paycheck. Freemasonry doesn't have that. So sooner or later, if you're not offering people something that makes them genuinely enjoy the experience, how likely are they to remain engaged? That is one of the challenges that we in Freemasonry face. And that kind of leads us, we need to rely more on, as Spirit points out, curiosity and intrigue. Every meeting, give them something that they're curious about or interested in, a new speaker, education, some type of something special that will pique their curiosity or pique their intrigue. Give them something they're afraid of losing out on. Again, the lodge in Arizona, every summons, it publishes the meal that they're going to have, which encourages some brothers who might be hungry or might like the food to come out because they know they might not get that meal again. It's again, Freemasonry is in some ways challenged in its ability to extrinsically motivate. So you got to create that intrinsic motivation. And again, this intrinsic motivation will change based on where you are in your Masonic journey. The other thing to keep in mind is whether the person who's engaged is in control of the situation or not. So, for example, there's also categories of motivations that rely on the user being in control of the situation. So, for example, I want to exercise because I want to be in shape. Because I want to be in shape, but so I'm choosing to exercise. No one's forcing me to do it. The decision is driven internally by my own desires. The problem, so in this example, right, from a Masonic perspective, I'm attending because I want to, because I feel like doing so is a good thing. That's an example of a white hat motivation. The problem with this as a category is there's no scarcity or risk of loss, nothing forcing you. So, for example, I have a gym in my apartment. The gym isn't going anywhere, it's always available. As a consequence of that, it can be hard for me to motivate myself to go because I know it will be there tomorrow. So if I'm tired today, why don't I just go tomorrow? There's no scarcity. And if they came to me though and said, hey, the gym is available Mondays and Fridays exclusively, I'll probably make sure I go Mondays and Fridays because I know I don't have any other times I can go. Sometimes creating that scarcity can actually encourage people to attend. That's one of the problems with Freemasonry right now is, especially when it comes to business meetings, if I'm a member and I know there will always be a business meeting at least once a month, how likely am I to go in January? Because I may say to myself, I can just go in February, I can just go in March, I can just go in April. But if there is one specific event Masonically that takes place every year, like there's one installation, I'm more likely to attend that installation because I know I won't have any other chances to attend. So, and you see that with Freemasonry. You're seeing very often people are far more likely to show up and attend for their far more likely to show up and attend for their special events that happen here and there. Like I'll show up for the installation, I'll show up for the official visit, I'll show up for this banquet because they know it's a once a year event. But the business meetings, which last maybe 10 times per year or 12 business meetings per year, far less likely to show up for because there's not that scarcity. It's easier to procrastinate. You can also kind of see that when it comes to black hat engagements, which are engagements or drives which rely on the user being forced into engagement via a fear of loss or through some external factor. Show up to work or you'll be fired, right? So this category results in short-term gains, but depending how it's applied, can often result in burnout and resentments by constantly forcing a sense of urgency or stress onto the user. So if the one reason I'm showing up to work is because I don't want to get fired, sooner or later, I may stop showing up to work if I have nothing else that keeps me, especially if I don't have a family or don't have anything else that's forcing me to go there. Or if I'm doing something like if, I'm doing something because I'm afraid of getting punished, eventually I may just say, screw it, I'll take the punishment if I start to feel like whoever's threatening me is either not serious or doesn't care about me, or I feel like the punishment would be better than doing whatever it is I'm doing. Then make the business meetings creative or fun with some investment opportunities or some others like Bank Infinity example. First of all, welcome Michael Rondo. Please hit that like button if you haven't done so yet. Thank you for being here. So I don't disagree. I mean, I 100% agree with you. We talked about that above in this example of gamification that I'm giving, right? One way to drive motivation is through curiosity or loss, fear of loss or avoidance. So create something special for each business meeting that people are afraid to miss out on, to engage their curiosity or to engage their fear of loss or avoidance. I don't want to miss this meeting because there's a one-time exclusive presentation, speaker, dinner, event that's not going to happen at any other meetings throughout the year. That is absolutely a possibility and worth considering and keeping in mind. So I don't disagree with you, and that is one of the core drives or core motivations. So no, I agree. And if you check out this article I just linked in the chat, that is 100% a example of what you're talking about. I talk about that a lot, the different motivations, the different ways people can be motivated to remain engaged in Freemasonry. Because I've said several times, so forgive me if you already know this and I'm chewing my food twice, but in my opinion, the biggest challenge that we are dealing with when it comes to Freemasonry is not a lack of members, it's a lack of engagement amongst the membership that we already have. I think what we need to do is do our best to figure out how we can get our brethren more engaged in the craft. And I think gamification is absolutely the way to do that. Let me know, Michael, if you've heard of gamification before, what your thoughts are, if you read the article that I provided, or the link, the story, I should say, from Medium. And if you have any thoughts personally yourself as to Freemasonry. If you've heard of gamification before, if you read my article before, I'd be very curious to know. And maybe you think it's nonsense and gamification cannot help Freemasonry at all, which is fine as well. I'd love to know what your thoughts are there. I don't know what Bank Infinity is. Can you let me know what that is? Because I'd be very curious to know. And thank you, everybody who has joined so far. As always, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and what it is that you want to talk about. But yeah, so I think actually here, I'm going to make that the next poll question just to see what people say. What do you think is the bigger getting new members, keeping our members engaged, keeping current membership engaged? All right. What do you think is a bigger challenge in Freemasonry? Getting new members, and I say Freemasonry, I mean today specifically, because at different times in history, it's been different things. Harry, Kirsty killed the cat. Satisfaction brought it back. That is very, very true. As always, though, please take a moment, hit that like button and subscribe button, answer our poll questions, and let me know. I think it's just a sign of the times. The military has many organizations have a similar problem. You are not incorrect. And Spirit of Justice, the two examples I would give people need to research is Join or Die, which is this movie that was produced by Michael Putman, who wrote Bowling Alone in the 90s, and the book Bowling Alone. Both of those examine these signs and these problems. So you're not alone at all in that. I don't disagree. But again, what is the military having the problem with right now? Is the military having the problem with a lack of engagement? Or is the military is the military having a problem with just recruiting? Or is the military having a problem with a lack of engagement among the recruits it already has? Like, is it having a hard time getting its membership, its army recruits to actually put in the same level of work or stick around that maybe that membership had in the past? 2 votes. 50% getting new members, 50% keeping current membership engaged. Recruitment is down. So do you think? So it's interesting, but from a military side of it, I feel like they would probably need to be more concerned with membership, because like you need a sufficient number of army members, you need a sufficient number of military to conduct a war or conduct peace operations or just maintain your safety. With Freemasonry, I do think, like, in my opinion, most lodges have a sufficient number of members that they could do the work they need to do if every member showed up. The problem is most members are not engaged, in my experience. Engagement meaning, attending at least or minimum of 2 meetings per year. So that, I think, is more of our challenge. It's kind of like from a military perspective, the equivalent would be like you have, 5 million in the army, but you can only get, say, 1 million to show up to active duty. That's kind of where we're at with Freemasonry, in my opinion. Let me know if that makes sense, Spirit, or what you think of that, positive or negative. I could be completely wrong, which I would completely understand. And right now, stock market crash is trending. So that might be worth talking about tomorrow. So that is interesting. And again, I know a lot of times people think that we in Freemasonry, if you can't show at least twice a year, I don't disagree, but that is very common. Honestly, based on my experience, over 50% of members in North America do not attend at least 2 meetings per year. There's lots of reasons for that. From the outside looking in, I'm not a Masonry person. I'm looking at your thought and saying, if I were having a business meeting with my crew, I'd bring something else that could lead. No, I appreciate you looking from the outside looking in. I appreciate the perspective. I have not read the game application. What I'm saying is having a concept of bringing someone in that's going to speak about bank. So what is Bank Infinite? I've never heard of this before. I'm really curious. And again, maybe there's some ways that we could apply Bank Infinite to Freemasonry. I'd be really curious to know what what that is. I can look it up online, I'm sure, but I'm interested. That's what I'm saying. You're bringing in different entrepreneur ideas to your members who show. Okay, so you're saying bring entrepreneurial ideas or an entrepreneurial spirit maybe to Freemasonry, to your meetings to create more interest. That could work, although a lot of members aren't joining out of kind of an entrepreneurial idea, although that would be core motivation, probably one, or maybe even fear of losing out. Cushion from stock markets. Well, apparently we need to be cushioned from stock markets right now. Because apparently the stock is this is fun. History is repeating itself. The stock market crash of 1925 may not be a recession after all, but instead a second Great Depression. Let's just hope the next president, FDR, will run and win in 2028 presidential election. If elections are still allowed, we need a second New Deal. This might be worth discussing tomorrow because, again, the effect. I didn't join Freemasonry for money. So, yes, unfortunately, Freemasonry membership is on a declining trend, at least to my knowledge. Not everywhere, but certainly in North America. I didn't join Freemasonry for money. In my opinion, because money driven, see, that's interesting, Kingpin. I'm trying to think of how to I want to make sure I say this correctly. How do I say this correctly? So it's not that, like, if anybody is joining Freemasonry out of a desire for financial improvement, then they're joining for the wrong reasons and they're not going to enjoy the craft. But that should also be true for everything in life. Like, one of my kind of complaints in life is I always hated the joke. People would always joke and say, okay, when you go to a job interview, they ask you, why do you want the job? And there's always this joke of, why do you think I want the job? I want to get the money. And it's like, no, you shouldn't. Anything you do, you should do out of a desire, out of some type of desire for love, right? I know how cheesy and stupid that sounds, but I think it's true. I think if you're doing a job and you're getting paid, you should try to find a way in your heart to love or care about that job, or love and care about the people in the job, or love and care about what you can offer to the world through that job. Even if you're working at McDonald's, you don't know, taking a few extra minutes to smile at a customer or care about your coworkers or care about that McDonald's, that matters. That makes things better. That makes the world a better place. And so if in Freemasonry, for example, you were to somehow, and I've talked about this before, provide financial opportunities, I don't think that necessarily is in and of itself a bad thing, so long as the core motivator still remains first and foremost kind of a love of Freemasonry or a desire to build the world into a better place. I think that's where it needs to come from first and foremost. And then from there, you can potentially and hopefully So again, like I don't think there's would be anything wrong with having a Masonic meeting where you bring in somebody who discusses financial opportunities and investing or whatever it is. There's nothing wrong with that, so long as the core remains a love of Freemasonry or a love of wanting to make the world a better place. But I think that should be true of everything. Professional wrestling, a lot of professional wrestlers get rich, a lot don't, a lot remain, never make it to the big leagues, but hopefully they're all doing it first and foremost out of a love of and for Freemasonry. I hope that that makes sense. I'm not a Mason because of my profession, because of my character. The networking is nice, but it's no. I agree. Don't get me wrong, though. I'm not. I'm not one of those people who like. If somebody's joining Freemasonry, let's say they, I don't know, they own a used car lot. I don't know why I always pick used car lot. Let's say they want to be mayor for whatever reason, and they join Freemasonry and they say, I just want to meet as many people as I can in the community. So I'm joining everything. I'm joining Freemasonry. I'm joining the Elks, the Moose. A lot of people, I think, would say that they are opposed to that. I personally am not. I'm not going to automatically say they can't join. I've known people who join out of networking desires and actually become fairly active and engaged Masons. I've also known people who join out of, they say all the right things, they want to help others, self-improvement, whatever it is, and they end up not sticking around. So I've said this a million times. I've known so many people who claim that there's some way to know or some way to prove who's going to join and who's not going to join, and who's going to be engaged. And honestly, I'm thinking it's more and more of just a crapshoot. The one exception might be personality assessments, which Kingpin, Spirit, Courtney, maybe you guys can help me out with that. I'll let you know how you can help me out with that in just 1 second. But I do have a suspicion about this. I happen to sell a particular service I found a number of, which, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with. If you're joining, hopefully that's not the exclusive reason, or that's not the reason, the one reason, because the danger of that is pretty obvious, right? If you're joining out of a desire for clients, eventually, and we don't provide you any other reason to stick around, especially because membership numbers are dropping, you're going to eventually become less interested in being part of Freemasonry. So it can't be the exclusive reason that you join or the exclusive reason you stay. But as a benefit, I have no problem with the idea of that as being a benefit. Of course, that's not why I joined. LOL. No, I get it. Yeah, the caps. We don't need to be shouting, Spirit. But I get what you're saying. Don't get me wrong, and I agree with you. I think the networking can provide a significant benefit to Freemasonry, so or to Masonic members, and I think that there is nothing wrong with that. In the meantime, I hope that everybody is doing well. If you're just joining us, please hit the like button. Please hit the subscribe button. Let's change up the poll question one more time. All right. Let's see. Which, as you should, you don't want to ever be in a situation where you're letting yourself be taken advantage of, but you always want to be giving a square deal. So, and as Masons, I think there's nothing wrong, by the way, with us trying our best to support our brothers. If two businesses offer the same services, and I know one of them happens to be owned by a Freemason, I'm probably going to do my best to try to support that business. I think is the right thing to do. And that might also be worth doing as a what was I trying to say? As a practice, right? Maybe you could even have a registration of Masonic businesses. So in your lodge, everybody who owns a business or provides a service puts himself in a database, and that way, what you're able to do is if you need something, like you need, let's say, lawn care services, what you can do is check out the list, see if there's any Masons who provide that service, and then contact them, which I think is something that might be worthwhile. Infinite banking is selling insurance, has a business, but at the same time getting access to that money in 30 days, creating an infinite bank account to use for good things. I'll check that out. Like I said, I've never heard of it, so I don't know anything about it. But I'll see what it says. Is the stock market crash affecting you? Look, so far we got 4 votes, 2 votes no, 2 votes too soon to tell. Good. I'm glad to hear that. At least nobody's saying yes. So I'm very happy that everybody seems to be doing okay. I've always said, we in Freemasonry cannot pretend like there was not a world out there. And again, if the stock market crash does start to affect people and Masons in terms of having less money, less access to funds, whatever it might be, that stuff matters. And it's important to keep that in mind. And think about how we can, as Masons, maybe support brothers if they are being affected by these things. If they or their businesses are being affected by these things. Cameron, actually, I'm happy to see majority no, 60% no, 40% too soon to tell with 5 votes, so 3-2, which is good. Cameron, what's your all opinion towards keeping Freemasonry alive? Oof, you're going to have to be a little bit more specific, Courtney. If you mean what's your all opinion towards keeping Freemasonry alive in terms of do I think we need to keep it alive, then the answer is 1000% yes. I think we need to keep it alive. I think it's vital for the world. If your answer is all opinion in terms of how I think we need to keep it alive, then I have a few different responses. The biggest way, though, I think is we need to maintain the relevance and grow the relevance by being more community centered and outward reaching, as well as setting more expectations on our members and allowing for suspensions if they do not meet those expectations. Once again, if you're just joining us, though, please take a moment, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and let me know what it is that you want to talk about. Thank you, everybody who's joined so far. Yeah, but my opinion in terms of keeping Freemasonry alive is I 100% think it's vital to the world. And look, there are a million ways to make the world a better place, but I think Freemasonry is, if Freemasonry is the one I chose, right? It's the one a lot of people have chosen over history. And so it's important that we keep that in mind. When we choose it, you know? So I'm going to, all right. Hey guys, I gotta go get dinner after bed. I'm in Poland this month. Thank you for the discussion. Poland, that is awesome. Let me know maybe in tomorrow's chat if you can join what the Freemasonry is like in Poland. If you've been to some Polish lodges, I'd love to know because I know nothing about that stuff. In the meantime, everybody who's on the chat, if you get the chance, I hope that you will maybe check out this link I just left and take a personality assessment and leave the results of your personality assessment in the stream. I've been saying, I think another way to potentially maintain engagement amongst our Masonic brothers is through personality assessments and trying to get members who have certain personality traits. It seems like the Masons who are most active and involved, to my knowledge, are themselves high ranking in terms of the personality trait of IQ, or sorry, IQ, and high personality trait in terms of curiosity and open-mindedness, otherwise known as being intuitive. And so I've been seeing a lot of people when I do these tests score, a lot of Masons who are active and engaged check these things out. And so I'm wondering if more people can maybe take the test and let me know if they are scoring the same levels. I'd be very curious to know. Is the stock market crash affecting you? 3 votes, no. 3 votes, too soon to tell. I'm just going to share this stream with a few more people, see if we can get some more people potentially joining before I may call this stream out. I do have to go see some friends today and do a bunch of work. I got a bunch of chores to do. I have a Scottish Rite meeting tonight. So I'm going to give it a few more minutes. I'm going to see who else joins us. I hope that the gamification discussion was interesting and help people maybe get some different thoughts or ideas. As always, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Tomorrow, I may be talking more about the stock market crash a little bit or asking more people how they think it might be affecting them. Certainly, I know several Masonic lodges and bodies that are themselves kind of relying on the stock market for a lot of their income. So we'll see how that goes. Time for me to leave. Goodbye. Goodbye, Dad. I hope that you're doing well, and I will see you very soon. and I look forward to it. Probably going to put this on some of my socials as well so people can find it that way. Michael Rondo, thank you so much, Michael. So let me know, Michael, if you would be interested in checking out that link I provided to Medium and maybe completing the questionnaire. I'd be very curious. Even though you're not a Mason yourself, maybe you do share some interesting traits with the rest of us Masons. I'd be curious to know. So I hope that you will check it out. All right, I'm going to over here. All right, I'm just going to give it a bit of time. We're going to see who else joins. We were talking about gamification. We switched it over to talking about personality assessment a little bit, membership engagement versus membership recruitment. So I'm just going to do a few polls. We'll see who answers, and we'll kind of go from there. Let me see if I can just write this out. There we go. I'm trying to think how to write this. Membership, member engagement. All right, just putting some stuff up on the Twitter. I'll give it a bit more time. Let's see who else joins us. And once again, chatting about Freemasonry. And please don't forget, check out our Patreon, all that good stuff. So, if anybody joining us for the first time, welcome. Please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let me know how you're doing and what it is that you want to talk about. Just going to give it a bit more time. We're going to see who else joins. I feel like we're still doing well, and anybody else jumps on. I've shared this on a few different social media channels, so we're just waiting to see who else jumps on and says hello. Oh, interesting. My first poll, is the stock market crash affecting you? Yes, 50% too soon to tell, 50% 2 votes. Trending right now is 51st state. I can tell you this, Canada will never be the 51st state. Let me just see if anybody else joins us. Give it a bit more time. No rush at all. I always enjoy hanging out. Let's see if anyone else joins us in the chat. Welcome. If you're just joining us, please take a moment, hit that like and subscribe button. I do my streams every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern, where we chat about Freemasonry. Today, earlier, we're talking about Freemasonry and gamification. Charismatic. Buenos. I do not know what that means, charismatic fiend, but thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate it. I hope you're doing well. If you haven't done so yet, I hope you hit that like button and subscribe button. Good afternoon to you as well. Let me know how you're doing and what is going on. As always, I appreciate you being here. We were talking today about gamification in Freemasonry, why I think gamification can be potentially a major benefit when it comes to improving Masonic engagement, which I think needs to be our most important thing from a Masonic standpoint. Then we started talking about personality assessments, why people join Freemasonry, and now we are at the just let's hang out and have a good time. So I hope you're doing well. Just going to wait to see who else joins us. Once again, we're here chatting about Freemasonry. I do these streams every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Today, we were talking about Freemasonry and gamification, what gamification is, and how Freemasonry can create a more engaging Masonic experience. The Great Reset is here. What is the Great Reset, Charismatic Fiend? Because I feel like I've heard that phrase or that name or that statement often. I just don't know what it means. It seems to me that if anybody is engaging in the Great Reset, or trying to get the Great Reset to take place, it's Donald Trump, which I'd very much prefer him not to reset anything. Thank you very much. But I don't think that I'd rather Trump maybe stop resetting. Klaus Rob wrote a book about it. Yes, that's what I mean. Trump is helping it along. Is it a good thing? Because digital currency is next, then universal. It's interesting. I actually did an episode, Charismatic. I don't know if you saw it or not, with high altitude investing. Let me just see if I can. I'm not sure if you watched it. I'm going to see if I can actually track it down. Let's see what I can find. Get the link for you, Charismatic Fiend. Here it is, episode 175 with high altitude investing, where we talk about cryptocurrencies and the way in which Freemasonry can potentially engage with cryptocurrency. So we're going to give you that link. You can check it out. I've also actually written extensively, Charismatic Fiend, about AI and Freemasonry. I personally am much more of a supporter, if that's the word, of artificial intelligence. I think AI will be pretty good for us. I think human beings are pretty terrible as a general rule, so I have no problem at all with creating something smarter and better than us. But also, I mean, if it's just another life form, or another form of intelligence, then I feel like we should probably be supportive of it. Why not? If I have the right to exist, then so too does an artificially intelligent creature have the right to exist. I don't see why one should exist and one shouldn't. Let me see if I can track it down, though. Here it is. Let me just share this with you as well. All right, I just shared. The two links there. One to the episode I did about cryptocurrency. The other thing I did is about the Medium story about AI. I hope you check those out. So, but I think that's kind of the interesting thing, Charismatic Fiend. You say AI is a tool, just like anything, depends on the intent behind it. But in theory, if artificial intelligence were to reach a point where it was truly intelligent, then it wouldn't be a tool anymore, right? I mean, you could argue it's more equivalent to like raising a child, right? If you create life and raise a child as well as you can and with all of the best ideas and kind of you teach it as well as you can the correct moral things, then you kind of hope it will grow up and the child will become somebody who is moral and good also. If on the other hand um you raise a child and you do so in a way that's negative or bad or teach it the wrong things, then that child may grow up to, not be so great. Well, it is right now. Who's to say, right? What would you define? I mean, that kind of creates a whole other can of tuna, but it's a fascinating can of tuna. How would you define a soul? Why is a soul something that humans can create, but we couldn't create a synthetic one? Right? You need to define soul. I'm not so sure. I think we may be able to. I think we may be able to create a synthetic soul, a fragment of the overall creator energy. So, what would then stop humans from being able to create one of those fragments or impart one of those fragments into something that it creates? Because we are particles, but so is this computer I'm speaking on, so is a microphone, right? What if we could arrange those particles in such a way as to create a soul? Right. I'm not sure. I guess I'm not sure why we would not be able to do so. And that creates the whole other question of if we can create one, do we have a duty or a responsibility to create one? And please, as always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're only the creator should do that. Well, I mean, if the creator gives us the ability to do so, because you could argue, right? Like we don't have the ability to fly, but we can build machines that can fly for us. So, for whatever reason, it seems that the creator, um, define as you will, gave us these very impressive gifts and abilities, including the ability to think and create. We're kind of builders as rules, right? Homo habilis means builder, which is one of our early ancestors or handyman. So it seems to me it might make sense that maybe we are supposed to create the next step in evolution. And it's nice to think that everything should get the chance to exist, whether it be synthetic or human or a combination. We are not enlightened enough to play God. Probably true, but part of me thinks it may happen whether we are enlightened enough to or not. I mean, you could argue, I don't know. I don't know, but I think it's fascinating. My suspicion is it's going to happen whether we want it to or not. So maybe it's one of those things you just kind of have to prepare for. If we're all from the same source and the highest being should create more life. Well, I mean, the obvious kind of challenge to that would be, whenever we have kids, are we usurping on the creator's role in that sense, right? Um, the matrix means womb or mother, but who created the matrix? Well, yeah, I mean, that's always going to be the question when you start talking about this side of things, right? If you accept the idea that there is some type of matrix or higher reality, then it's kind of like turtles all the way down. You can always ask, okay, how many realities are there altogether? Because you can never know for sure which one is the correct one. That creates its own very challenging and hard question to answer, which I don't know necessarily what it is. My grandpa's probably really like to share with the chat. I mean, shoot me off something through Instagram, and I'll see what I can do. I'm sure it's a beautiful ring. In the meantime, as always, please make sure you keep on hitting that like and subscribe button. Let me know how everybody's doing. We are here chatting right now about artificial intelligence, which is always a fun thing to chat about, especially since it's something I know very little about, though I think there's a lot of interesting things worth discussing when it comes to that. So hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Let's give it a bit more time to see who else joins. There's no rush. Tomorrow, I may be back on to discuss more about the stock market crash, how it may be affecting Freemasons. We're going to have a friend perhaps join us, so that'll be a blast if he's able to. So there might be a lot of really fun things worth discussing. So please make sure, if you can, I get to see you tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern, once again. I'm just going to give it a few more minutes to wait to see if anybody else jumps in the chat, says hello. If they do, what it is that you guys want to talk about. Maybe another 10, 15 minutes. If nobody else joins, then we'll call this stream off. And tomorrow I'll be back with a brand new stream. Once again, in this case, chatting about, tomorrow we'll chat about potentially the economic effects of the current stock market crash and what that might mean for Masonic lodges moving forward, because Freemasons need to care about this stuff. And welcome, for just joining us. Please take a moment, hit like, hit subscribe, jump in the chat, say hello. This stream is every Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. We chat about Freemasonry. So, which is always as people who know me know, my favorite thing to talk about. Tonight, I've actually got a Scottish Rite meeting, so that's going to be fun. So lots of exciting things happening today. Let's see. I put up some poll questions. I'm also going to share some poll questions on Patreon. So if you get the chance, you haven't done so yet, make sure you follow us on Patreon. I'll leave that link there. Charismatic. You can also join us on Patreon if you've done so yet. You can join for free. Cameron, do you see Freemasonry adapting to future events? I hope so. I absolutely hope so. And it'd be a shame if it doesn't. It's already adapted to, different events. It's adapted to to the world through, digital world, digital spaces. It had meetings. It tends to, I once heard this joke, not so much a joke, that Freemasonry advances one funeral at a time. There's some truth to that, unfortunately. Though it's sad to hear. Sometimes when it comes to Freemasonry, its ability to adapt to the future kind of depends on how many old guys are sitting around. So we shall see. All right, let's give it another, let's say 5 minutes. We're just to see if anybody else joins, and then we'll call the stream today. We'll be back tomorrow with another stream, which I'm very much looking forward to. Every day, Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. Eastern. Hope to see everybody there. All right, I think we are all set. Thank you so much for another great live stream. I'll be back tomorrow doing another one of these live streams, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you all there. In the meantime, though, I hope everybody has a great night. Thank you guys so much, and I'll talk to you all soon.